Okay, good morning, everyone. How you doing out there? All right, let's try one more time. Good morning, everyone. All right, fantastic. So welcome to our 12th annual Scholarship Partners Breakfast. I'm Chuck Peterson. I'm chair of the foundation this year, and it's my honor to MC the event. We've got a great program for you this morning. This is one of my favorite events because, you know, among the tables out here, we've got a student from one of our campuses who's directly received a scholarship that the generous donors that are here today have provided. So it's a chance for you to really tangibly touch a student who's receiving the benefit that the dollars we've raised have helped. And we're going to try to tell that story to you a little bit better today, and hopefully everyone can feel really great about the donations you've given, and you can see directly the lives that you're changing through those donations. So first up, before we get started on that piece, Dr. Ken Atwater's here this morning, president of HCC. Dr. Atwater's been a tireless advocate for the campus in his role, and he's been a great partner with the foundation. And without further ado, let's bring up Ken Atwater.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chuck. Let me echo what Chuck said, though, because I'll have to tell you, too, that this is one of my favorite events to do at the campus, is come to the scholarship breakfast. I wish all of you could be on the stage and look out across the room and see the smiling faces of the students and the donors that have helped contribute to their success. So we really appreciate all of you being here this morning, and we really want to thank you all for your support. But before we begin, let me make a few introductions, if you don't mind. First, let me introduce the volunteer leadership for the college, and that is our Board of Trustees and also the Foundation Board of Directors. I think we have 3 of our trustees here this morning. Our chair, Ms. Marty Buckman, Trustee Deepa Shaw, and Trustee Steve Conan. Would you stand to be recognized? Next, would all the members of the Foundation Board of Directors please stand and be recognized also, please? Please know that your service to the college is vital to the college's success, and we thank you for all your efforts and support that you give. This breakfast this morning gives us the opportunity to express our deepest gratitude to many of the college's most loyal supporters and community partners. You have entrusted us as stewards of your precious resources, and I assure you that we treat them with the utmost care. In fact, through your generosity over the last 15 years, we have awarded nearly $8 million to over 7,500 students. That deserves a round of applause. As you can imagine, with over 64% of our students requiring some form of financial aid, your scholarship can truly alter a student's direction. I believe there are few who are able to grasp the depth and breadth of HCC reach. We all know the numbers: 45,000 students over 5 campuses and centers on both, also in major online programs we serve each year. But HCC programs quietly touches the lives of our community each and every day. From our nursing, radiography, dental, and associate health programs that elevate the quality of healthcare in our community, to our police and fire, paramedics, and EMT training programs that keeps our streets and families safe, to our culinary and hospitality program that supports our hotels, restaurants, and tourist attraction, to the automotive technician, collision repair, welding program that are enabling the port, the airport, and all the other intermodal transportation partners in Tampa Bay to thrive, and to the transfer student wishing to continue their education. In other words, we are providing the training that is shaping the flourishing economic landscape of our community. So I want to thank you for investing in us and investing in our students. With more than 80% of our graduates remaining in our area, it is incumbent upon us to ensure that everyone have the resources needed to become productive, contributing members of our society. We also want to continue our accessibility because our mission is very simple, and that is to meet the educational needs of the Tampa Bay region. Our students represent every conceivable background with a remarkable diversity of learning abilities and educational dreams. Though each is unique, they share a common desire to do something more with their life and something better. Many of our students, like Tatiana and George, who you'll hear from later, make enormous sacrifices to attend HCC. I hope that you will share their stories and the incredible impact that both the college and our foundation has had on their life. But we're all very fortunate to count you all as supporters today. And today, our answer to you is just simply, thank you. Thank you for believing in our students, and thank you for supporting HCC. Thank you.
And for the real treat of the day. So we have two students with us today, both Tatiana Rivers and George Polanco. Tatiana is currently enrolled at our SouthShore Campus. And while her story is hers alone, it's representative of the many students who your generosity helps. George Polanco is a graduate of HCC and currently enrolled at USF. We're going to hear from him also. And he's just a great example of why our alums say HCC made a difference in my life, and it's going to help me in my future. So without further ado, let's welcome up Tatiana.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for coming. All right, my name is Tatiana Rivers, and my speech will be entitled, Attitude is Everything. Okay. All right. Struggles that we face growing up in the environments that we're around does have a big impact on your views of the world and self-worth. The way I see it, you can make the best out of what you're given or make excuses for what you don't have. But all in all, the world around us does not stop. Growing up with my grandparents, which was my mother's mom and stepfather, in a home not too far from Oak Park Elementary School, I didn't put too much thought into why I wasn't living with my parents. They surrounded me with so much love, it blinded me from what was really going on. And seeing my parents every weekend really did put the icing on the cake. It wasn't until 2004, Mother's Day, when my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's, my perfect shelter world came crumbling down at the age of 9. Soon after, I moved in a small apartment across Tampa with my auntie and her 2 children, sharing a room with my youngest cousin, her son. During that time, I was living with my auntie. We moved to several different low-income apartments, but the last one we stayed in was from my 4th grade year to my 9th grade year of high school. As kids do, I often get into arguments with my cousins, often being ganged up on and called hurtful names, like freeloader, and told that my parents didn't want me. I would do nothing but cry and felt unwanted because I wanted to live a normal life like everyone else did and live with my parents. I had never heard the expression crack baby until I was about 12 years old, and I was arguing with my older cousin over doing chores. So I sat there, dumbfounded and confused, because I had never done drugs in my life, and I had no intentions on doing so. It wasn't until my first year of high school when my auntie explained what was really going on and what led up to the days of my birth. The truth was, my mother and father was both addicted to crack cocaine. My mother did and continued to do drugs up until my birth, causing me to be born with crack cocaine in my system, making her unable to take me home. I was told I was faced going into foster care from the hospital unless a family member came to take responsibility for taking care of me. That's when I realized that my grandmother and my auntie were the most important people in my life, besides God, because I don't know where I would be today without their love and support for a child that wasn't theirs. Sorry. I thank God every day that I was born with no defects, and I use that to motivate me, to keep me thriving when I feel like giving up. Learning my upbringings pushed me even harder to succeed in school and made a brighter future for not just myself, but for others in similar situations, to be a role model. Growing up, even though I was always an A student, I struggled with reading in the 6th grade. I would get called on to read in class and would ask my teacher to skip me, but that only worked half the time. The other half, I was faced with pure terror of being embarrassed, because I would shake and stutter uncontrollably every time I tried to read out loud in class. I had to believe I could learn to read on level and not quit by practicing daily. I would find books that interest me and started listening along with cassette tapes until I was able to read an entire book in a matter of weeks with no assistance. By the time I was in 8th grade, I was on level and ready for high school, where I graduated with a 5.1 GPA and 4th in my class. I am now at HCC SouthShore Campus, involved in student government, being once the president, vice president, and now the marketing coordinator. I am an inducted member of the Collegiate 100, and I help motivate those in middle and high school, as well as tutor the local elementary schoolers in a program to help build their reading skills. I will be graduating from HCC SouthShore Campus this upcoming spring with my AA degree in Allied Health. I will continue my education at the University of South Florida, ultimately earning my BA in Mass Communications and my Master's in Nursing, becoming a motivational speaker and a nurse practitioner and obstetrician gynecologist. It's mind-boggling how powerful 2 words can affect your life. But with those words, I managed to make a new meaning, which motivated me to overcome the statistics of my upbringings. Yes, I was a crack baby, but this crack baby has grown up to be an intelligent, inspiring Black woman that lets nothing get in her way towards success. Now with my own baby on the way, I vow to always be there and continue with my education no matter what. I want to say thank you to your amazing organization for making my college education affordable. I really appreciate your support and believing in me and students like me to overcome their past that is sometimes not in their control and allowing us to succeed in our dreams. Thank you.
I don't know what else to say, but wow, what an inspiring story. Please welcome George Polanco.
I'm gonna use this microphone. Can we have one more round of applause for this young lady? That is amazing. Thank you for having the courage to speak your story. That's for one HCC student to the other. Keep on pushing through. That's awesome. Like Miss Tatiana, I'll start by, my story's really long, so I'm gonna try to condense it in the 5 minutes that I've been given. But our upbringings we were set up for failure. And my journey through HCC, I realized that there's a lot of us that come lost. My first job was at 13 years old. I paid the bills in my house. My mom's house. I paid the rent, I paid everything, and that was what I felt like I was the man in my house, and that's what I had to do. That's the upbringing I came in to. College wasn't a conversation in my home. College wasn't even a thought. My aspirations were to become a cashier at Walmart, and that sounds funny to some, and it's like, why so low? Why hit the bar so low? But it's because that's the only thing that was in my scope and my vision. That's the only thing that I saw as an aspiration for me to go ahead and provide for my family, because that's the mentality that I had. I needed to provide for my family. And in that transition, at 15 years old, I actually got kicked out of my house, and I found myself alone. And one day, I got a phone call, fast forwarding to a couple of years later, I got a phone call from an HCC alumni student that had graduated Stetson University at the top of her class, and started at HCC and was a practicing lawyer, and that was a distant cousin of mine that she had asked, what happened to the Polanco kids? And they said, well, we don't know where they are. And she started digging, and I got a phone call, and she asked me, what are you doing with your life? And I said, I'm trying to survive. And she told me, why don't you move to Florida and try HCC, and we'll work together and see what you can do, right? So when I walked into the HCC doors, I applied. In my mind, this was a mistake. I had come to HCC and I was gonna fail, because this is not what my mind was. I needed to get that job to go ahead and provide for myself, because that's the reference point that I had. I needed to provide and make money, right? My journey through HCC took me through the honors program. On the first semester, I met my public speaking teacher, and he said, George, you need friends. And he said, I'm gonna go ahead and sign you up for the honors program. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm new to college, I haven't gone to school in so long, I'm failing. I feel like I'm failing, but you're gonna put me in the Honors Institute? And I was like, this makes no sense, but I went with the flow, right, Dr. Atwater? And my life started to change at that moment. I was introduced to that arena, to these students that were a little bit younger than I, but their minds were completely different. And then through each class, even in the Honors Institute and out of the Honors Institute, because in the Honors Institute you take both classes. You take classes with regular students and with honor students. My mind began to expand. I began to change, not just academically, because academics you can study and you'll get used to it because practice makes perfect, but my perspective on life, Dr. Holmes, started to change. I started viewing the world through each class, I viewed the world differently. I viewed successes differently. I viewed George differently. I started looking above and beyond of my circumstance. And I started realizing I can do this, and I can do that. And this is something that I can grasp. And each one of my students, each one of the students around me were on that same journey, and I realized for once in my life that I was not alone, Tatiana. That all of a sudden there were people marching towards victory, marching towards a success that sometimes I still don't know what I'm gonna do in life, but I know that I'm on the right path, right? HCC changed my life, changed my perspective through mentorship. I became part of the Honors Institute. From the Honors Institute, I was able to join the Student Government Association. Just by association, all of a sudden, George, have you ever thought about the Honors Institute? And I'm happy to have my president of student government sitting here today listening to these words. Then from there, I gained a sense of community with the Hope Scholars and with Dr. Barry. He's somewhere here in there he is. Give that man a round of applause. Dr. Barry was an instrument of not only, it was faith. It was like, George, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do that. Sometimes it's hard for people like me to go ahead and say, okay, I have all this greatness, but sometimes you need someone to tell you, George, you gotta push more. George, this was your story, but don't let your story define your future. Let your story be a tool for you to get to where you're trying to go. To speak on these foundation dollars, I received the Hope Scholarship, and it was more than money, Dr. Holmes. It was an affirmation for me that there was a community that was on my side. It was a reminder to me that there were people rooting for me. That there were people saying, you have to get to where you're going, that there is purpose in your life, that there is something that you have to achieve. So I tell you guys in these short words, and if you want to hear my story, then we'd have to sit down for 2 hours and a couple of drinks and things like that. But what you guys have done here today and the seeds that you've sown, they're not just tuition dollars, they are literal seeds. And I'm a product of that seed. And my life has changed. Tatiana's a product of that seed. And her life has changed. But not only have we changed our lives, but our children and the children of our children that are going to interact with your children and the children of your children that are going to go ahead and change the world and mold the world that is to become. So I thank you for sowing your seed and making my life and my children's life and my children's children's life a better place. Thank you.
The event, you want to MC that? Fantastic job, both Tatiana and George. Thank you again for sharing those stories. And, just a fantastic example of what your generous donations and scholarship dollars are doing to change the lives of people and members of our community. Next up on our event, unfortunately, our executive director is sick at this today, so he was not able to join us, Steve Shear. So I'm going to welcome up Donna Wilensky to the podium. Donna is the Director of Development for us, and she's been with the foundation for about 3 years and doing a fantastic job in that role. So she's going to share a few thoughts with us, so please welcome Donna Wilensky.
We've said it before, wow. Tatiana, I'm so glad you made it here this morning. She's been sitting in traffic for a very long time, as I know many of you were this morning. George, another home run, thank you. It's amazing. There are students seated at all of our tables, and their stories are as powerful as the stories that you've heard from these two young people this morning. I hope you've had a chance, or that you take an opportunity before you leave to talk with them, hear a little bit about what brings them here today, how you have made it possible for them to be here today. Without question, you are the silent partners in their lives. And we are grateful, and they are grateful. I am pleased to be here, and we're sorry that Steve Shear, our new executive director, can't be here because he's ill, but frankly, we're kind of glad he's not sharing those germs with the whole room either, so just saying. As our new executive director, he's been looking forward to this opportunity to meet and thank you personally for all that you've done to help our students and all that you will continue to do. So we will find another opportunity soon for many of you to meet him. You know, successful fundraising really comes down to doing two things really well: making friends, and then finding ways that we can marry the giving priorities of our friends with the needs of the college. And when we do that, magic kind of happens. Like today, magic kind of happens. When I came to the foundation 3 years ago, I first knew many of you simply as names on a list. And now when I look across the room, or when I greeted you as you walked in this morning, I realize that you're my friends. Our relationship has changed over that 3 years. And I can look out, many of you, I know your families. I know what brought you to Florida. I may know how deep your roots in Tampa go. If we're friends on Facebook, I know who your grandkids are. But most importantly, I have a really good idea about what you care about and what shapes your philanthropic interests. Most of you are here this morning because you care deeply about our students having an opportunity to attend college and to share in the kind of successes that we've heard about from Tatiana and George. And regardless of our own personal stories and your personal stories, the dreams of our students are not so very different than those that we had ourselves many years ago. And as you talk to our students at the tables, I think you're going to agree with that. We've all had, at some point in our life, difficulties, different than, perhaps similar to, some of what you've heard this morning. They've all brought us to this place today. This year, as Dr. Atwater said, over time, the foundation has awarded nearly $8 million in scholarships. This year, we'll give out about $800,000. Thanks, truly, to the generosity of the people in this room. And you are not our only donors. Many, of course, are not able to be here. You are not our only scholarship recipients. Similarly, many of them are not able to be here because, much like the students you've heard from, they have jobs and they have families and they have kids and they have soccer and all of those things that make up our lives. And being with us at 7:30 on a Friday morning didn't quite make the cut. While the foundation is proud that we are able to award scholarships to many students, it's really important that we all understand that really only about a third of the very qualified students who apply for scholarship assistance gets an award. That's not to suggest that the 2 of every 3 students who we are not able to fund aren't deserving, because they certainly are. The reality is we run out of money before we run out of students. So I'm here today to both thank you and to ask you to do a little more. If each of you would take a gift card from the table, they're there, little gift envelopes, and make a gift, perhaps of $100, perhaps a little more or a little less. The foundation could help as many as a dozen new students immediately. And by the way, just like every other nonprofit, we make giving easy. You can write us a check, you can give us a credit card, you can go online, you can become a sustaining donor and make a regular gift every month or every quarter, something that fits your budget. The important thing is that we continue to do a little more, because we have students who need a lot more. All gifts make a difference, regardless of their size. You know, scholarships are about more than helping to pay college expenses. In the case of HCC, with 87% of our alumni staying in Hillsborough County, they are also about building the future of Tampa Bay, much like George has already pointed out to us. And that's a giving priority we should all be able to get behind. They are our future. They are the future of our region. Before I turn the podium back to Chuck, I've got a few thanks of my own to make. I want to again say thank you to our foundation board. We couldn't do the work we do without your leadership. Very importantly, I want to say thank you to our foundation staff, my colleagues, our team, Brenda Rouse standing in the back, our annual fund and alumni relations manager, and also the person who helps put on all of our special events. We wouldn't be here today without her great organization. Thank you, Brenda. Josette Bullness in the back is our finance manager. Josette coordinates our scholarship program from the application to the award stage all the way through. And just by coincidence, she's carrying some of those little magic squares. So if you wanted to make a gift with a credit card, Josette's the gal to see. And raise your hand, Josette, so they can find you. She'd be able to help you out before the end of the day. Ann Paget, who's our database manager, is out, I think, probably still sitting at the check-in table, hoping a few of our folks who probably are still lost in traffic make their way in. She not only keeps our data clean, she's the person that provides lots of that behind-the-scenes support that we all need every day. And June Kirsch, who's not here today, she's our executive assistant and the one person who stayed back at the office in case any of you called in saying, oh, I forgot where I'm supposed to be at 7:30, so that she could tell you. There's Ann. Ann Page is walking in. I'm going to wave and say hello. I want to thank you all for being here today, and now I'm going to ask Chuck to come back out for a special announcement.
Okay, I have 2 special thank yous. One, first up, Suncoast Credit Union is sponsor of this event today, and we want to thank them for their long-term and continued support of the foundation. They've been great partners, so thank you very much to Suncoast. then we have a special opportunity this morning to call attention to one of the foundation's most generous annual scholarship donors. Over the past 2 years, the William Gregory Foundation has committed $50,000 to our scholarship program. These $2,500 scholarships are the largest we offer to our students. I am pleased to invite the board members of the William Gregory Foundation to the podium. Please welcome Ms. Karen Mills and Chris Taylor.
For those of you who can't quite see from this side of the room, the William A. Gregory Foundation this morning, as they walked in, presented me a check for $25,000, a new check for $25,000 for continuing support of their scholarship fund. Chris, Karen, and extend to Heidi, their third trustee who couldn't be here, our great appreciation. Thank you.
So on behalf of the foundation, again, I want to thank the William Gregory Foundation for this generous donation. I also want to thank all our friends and donors in the audience again. You know, I was looking from my perspective, the flag was right in the perspective of the speakers up here. And, you know, what is America about at its core other than you're not a product of your circumstance, you're a product of the work you're willing to put into to get somewhere. And there's a lot of barriers out there to making those dreams happen for some people, but let's not let money be one of those barriers. So thank you for everything you've done. This concludes our program, and have a great afternoon.